welcome, as it were, for listeners to the first interview, Super Terra Meets, a new series where I get to meet various exciting people who are changing the face of Terra. And in particular, one of my main loves is NFTs. And I think that there's no better place to start than one of my favorite NFT projects. These guys are so innovative. You've not even done your major first full mint yet, but you've already really captured the imagination across the space with a whole raft of different collaborations and really interesting opportunities. I'd just love to start by asking the simple question. What got you guys into, firstly, the Terra world and also the NFT space, but very particularly, why AI?
Yeah, well, very kind of you, Super Terra, and it's lovely to finally chat as well. Like, I know we've been collaborating on different things, but, this is the first time we're actually chatting, so super excited. I got into Terra so early last year after having been in crypto for a while, but really being impressed by the complexity with DeFi and Terra. So, the concept of stablecoins and especially decentralized stablecoins really sung out to me. So from there, just sort of went into the rabbit hole and got really into it. With NFTs, I think NFTs, I just saw it as a really great way to onboard users into Web3. And I think the building of communities, given how early we are and, how early things were last year as well, early last year, I think it was great to build relationships and, talk about the future that we want to build together. So that community aspect really drew me to it. And, I think Mikachu can talk a lot about AI, given his background as well. So I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, thanks, and hello to Super Terra as well. I'm very excited to be here. So my background is more in the kind of computer science, ML, and AI type space. And it's something that I've been involved in for a while. But it was only in the last kind of 1 to 2 years that I started to see some of what's happening in the AI art space and get involved in that, because it's still a pretty small movement in a very small area of research within the overall kind of AI and ML community. But that was kind of the original starting point, being interested in that and seeing that some of the really cool stuff being done in the open source community with AI art was starting to get beyond just some random demos and seems to be something that could be used to create a wider story and kind of do something cool. So we kind of at that piece, and then we're just lots of chatting about NFTs and everything going on and how it could all come together. And it kind of all fell out of that to do the concept art piece that eventually became dystopAI.
Excellent. And I guess a key question for me is, why dystopAI? I think it's a brilliant play on words, but what kind of inspired that?
Yeah, I guess the three of us are huge kind of fantasy, post-apocalyptic, dystopian nerds, and we indulge in a lot of media in that sense, like books and movies and whatnot. And just when we were playing around with the AI, right, you can do a full spectrum of things when we're still in the ideation space, and we were playing around with everything. And we just noticed that the more dark and the grim, the dystopian stuff was just coming out incredibly. And then, if you pair that with the fact that you can create a real universe and do a lot of storytelling around it, it just works perfectly.
And I think for me as well, it really captures perhaps two things: the mood of the times, because I think we are in a very strange period in human history. And I think as well, for me, as someone who has been fascinated by crypto for a number of years, there is a real crossover between crypto enthusiasts and sci-fi enthusiasts. And I think you've kind of found the nexus of that very well. Certainly, I guess you've found people are reaching out to you to want to collaborate because you're just producing something so different. Dare I say, even unique in this space. I've not seen anything like this on other chains.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, further down the line was when we realized that collaborations is arguably the most powerful part of this project. And for context for listeners, basically, we discovered a feature where you can start with an input image, say someone else's NFT, and then feed the AI a prompt so you can morph it to different degrees. Like you can make a character look morph, like turn into a cyberpunk, or you can create a terrain or a realm in which it exists. And I guess what that allowed us to do was collaborate in a way that is completely unique, as you said, Super Terra, to the world of NFTs. It's not just making one-for-one unique or, cross-offering whitelist spots. Like, we are literally making universes for other projects, and we could really get that cross-pollination of the communities and ideas going and really offer utility for other communities in ways which hasn't really been done before. So yeah, that's been a really special aspect of the project.
And I think for me, as someone sort of watching it develop, in some cases at very close quarters, really enjoyable collaboration I did with you guys, with the Loop article and the competition for imagining a dystopian landscape. That was fascinating. And obviously the tie-up on Blade Runner that then led to the link up with the guys from Terra Movie Club. But I think my favourite, to be honest, is one, and I don't have one, sadly. I look on with great envy to the wonders of Astroverse. I think that for me, what you undertook there, and it'd be great if you talk me through a bit more of that, because I understand it was a pretty mammoth undertaking in terms of what you achieved in a very short space of time. But that really is quite transformative and has really captured the imagination on the Terra Twitter space.
Yeah, I think the Astroverse collaboration we did was the biggest and most exciting one so far, and probably the piece of art in the community that we've done so far that we're most proud of. So would love to talk about that. One comment before answering that, though, to be totally transparent, like when we were earlier on, we actually thought that the storytelling competition stuff would kind of be more exciting to the community than teleporting NFTs into the dystopAI universe. And where we've ended up with the project is really based on the fact that that hypothesis didn't turn out to be right, and the community were way more excited about the teleportation than about the storytelling competition. And so we've been really happy to change what we emphasize in the project, and just thought that's an interesting note to share. But so on the Astroverse collaboration, I'll let the other guys jump in too, but the super exciting thing about that was just that after chatting with some of the team there, we realized that it was a perfect, like absolutely perfect use of our AI tools to create a surface view of the planets in the Astroverse collection, which are already incredible pieces of art. And the reason we realized it was so perfect is that each of their planets already had characteristics. So some of their planets are terrestrial or artificial or gas giants, and there are a few other metrics they've got. And we realized that we could build something to feed into the AI that would combine the actual look of their planet with the characteristics that are already in that NFT with a custom concept that the owner of that NFT wanted the surface of the planet to look like. And we could bring those together to create these incredible images of what the surface of the planets look like. And I think the reason why they're so cool is that for each one, it's unique, but when you look at it, you can see why that is the surface of that particular Astroverse planet that you're looking at. And I think being able to do that and its scale for everyone in the Astroverse community is what made that collaboration so exciting.
And it's interesting, you said that you'd sort of pivoted from story-based inspiration for the AI, but I actually think in some ways the Astroverse almost takes you back to the story afterwards, because it allows people's imagination to run wild. They've got their Astroverse planet, and I think they are absolutely fantastic pieces of art. And then you've added that extra dimension of bringing the surface to life. And I think another example I've seen very recently, and I was very lucky to win one of the 50 selections, was the Lunar Bulls. Imagine the city, and I think there is probably a place for both, and I think. The way the AI takes the idea, again, I'd love to hear more about this. And conscious, obviously, there's a few of you on the call, so please, I don't want just to be about the AI, even though I think it's fantastic. But I'd love to know how some of those images morph. One particular one that sticks in my mind was the image of almost kind of a futuristic hunter of some sort in a very bleak dystopian landscape in a city, and then that really transformed. I'd just love to know kind of, are there other things that you do to the AI to sort of tweak it in certain directions? Because some of these things really are quite mind-blowing.
I think before we go into that one, I think you raised a great point around the storytelling, right? The teleportation, in essence, it is storytelling. It's creating a background or a story for that character or that NFT. So it's not like we've pivoted away from it. We're executing it in a different way, and it's not something I've really thought about until you said it yourself. So yeah, super interesting point there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
and happy to jump into some of the story of what we're doing with the AI, if that's helpful.
Yeah, that would be extremely helpful. Yes, please. Now, and I think I'm not alone in sort of admiring the great work that you guys are doing. So it'd be great to understand a little bit more about it.
Totally. So to start off, I would remind everyone that whenever you do any sort of AI project or any tech engineering project generally, you're standing on the shoulders of giants and everyone who has built the tooling and infrastructure that you use to do what you want to do. So one of the really important enablers for us is that there's an organization called OpenAI that was formed 4 or 5 years ago now by a series of people in Silicon Valley, like Sam Altman and Elon Musk initially. And they're a nonprofit whose mandate has been to create really high-end AI models and raise the funds that you need to train them on massive data sets and then release them as open source software for the world to use. Their most exciting thing that probably got the most press attention is a thing called GPT-3, which is a model that writes text. But the one that is most important to our work is a piece they did called Clip, which is actually a model that captions images. So it writes a caption for an image. That doesn't sound like what we're doing, but let me link this together.
Okay.
The reason it's important is that what we're doing sort of uses Clip backwards to move the image toward something that Clip thinks has a certain caption. So what we're doing is more similar to training a neural network than it is to doing normal inference. So we're kind of using Clip many times and changing the image itself in the training process as if it's operating on the image, so that the image becomes what Clip thinks is the caption. So because that's such an intensive workload, the way that we do that is that we have some high-performance computing clusters with the Google Cloud Platform, and we're using some massive NVIDIA A100 GPUs that cost many tens of thousands of dollars each, and each have 40 gigabytes of VRAM, and then we're running rounds of that process I just described with using Clip backwards on there to create these images.
Excellent. So you're really, as you say, I love the phrase "standing on the shoulders of giants." It's one of my favourite phrases. But actually, what you're doing is you're innovating off the back of something that's been created as an open source opportunity, and then reverse engineering to some extent to create this incredible transformation. I think for me, as the foundation of the project, I think it's fantastic and it's unique. I think what I'd like to do now, though, is move more onto two things. Firstly, obviously, you've built up already through delivery, I would say, rather than hype. There's no hype involved. And I think this is refreshing, by the way. Your project sells itself, and people want to get involved. They want to see it. And as soon as they see the art, they really get engaged by it. For me, I'm excited to hear two things. One, obviously you've got a main collection plan for launch. It'd be great to hear some more about that. But also, I'd really welcome your thoughts on how the community involvement will develop post that launch, and how indeed already you're finding community engagement within the Terra space.
Yeah, so happy to speak around, what we're doing and what we've been trying to deliver. And, focusing on delivery rather than hype is a conscious decision. And, just on Astroverse, we airdropped, over 400 people their NFTs, and also demoed our Zooming videos as well during that. So we want to show that we're capable of executing things at scale. We're not just another project where, utility is baked in at a future date and we don't know when it'll happen. There's already utility and we haven't even minted yet. So that's a really conscious decision. We also wanted to bring in community collaboration and community input right from the get-go with these collaborations and give people a taste of what things will look like post-mint. So that's been, something that we've been really excited about, and we've been really happy with how community have taken things and all the buzz on Twitter with Astroverse, Bulls, Monstera, and all of those collaborations. I think what's really exciting about the Mint collection is, number one, it's all AI generated. It's all based on, a lore that we've created that community can interact with and explore. I think Rosie Ain't Dead can talk through some of those factions and lore that we've created as well.
Yeah, sure. This has been a really exciting part. We've been working this for the last month. But we have really fleshed out the universe behind this drop. We've planned out a world map. We've commissioned artists to create it. And essentially running on this idea that, the moon's disappeared and it's shattered the Earth. The Earth has been shattered into 4 main continents, each afflicted by different disasters, and therefore giving rise to different terrains and different life forms. So you have a continent in the north that's fallen to nuclear warfare. It's icy and cold and purple and radioactive, and you have these huge futuristic cities with robots and cyborgs and AI. Then in the east, you have another continent that is hot and scorching and fiery and plagued with volcanoes and kind of like a miniature version of hell. Then in the south, you have a more idyllic continent. It's, I guess, on the surface green and luscious and looks like a bit of a paradise, but it's been plagued by gigantism, and you have these huge apex predators that make it very hard to exist there. And finally, in the west, you have this more barren, Mad Max type wasteland with pyramids and nomads and bandits. And there's a big, vicious ocean that separates the 4 continents with, your giant squids and underwater cities. And we're planning the mint around those 5 areas and equally allocating the AI images to each faction and, having a unique color palette and aesthetic to whichever of those factions the image falls into.
That's fantastic. My imagination is running wild already to think about that. I had to smile when you were saying that on the surface, the southern based area, which obviously is not escaped my attention, that you guys are, in the southern hemisphere, is on the surface the best one. But it sounds like a bit like Australia. There are a few scary predators. I know, as someone who visited there a number of years ago, we don't have your big spiders, that's for sure. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, that also for me evokes thoughts about mythology. When you talk about, the giant sea creatures and gigantism, there's a lot of things playing on my mind, and I guess you may have thought about this. You've almost got the mythology angle as well. And particularly on the eastern continent, Dante's vision of hell. There's lots of ideas floating around my head, and I'm sure this will absolutely catch the imagination. with all of that in mind, do you now have an intended sort of drop date or drop range for this activity, just so that I guess listeners will have a sense to build up that anticipation towards this main mint collection?
Yeah, we sure do. And we haven't announced this yet, so it's an exclusive announcement, as it were, and we're happy to do it here with you. But we're looking now at doing 500 pieces, so 500 NFTs exploring the universe we've created that we'll all explore together on the 20th of January with Luart. So we're really excited to be partnering with Luart on this, just because they're the first gamified NFT marketplace. You gain points and rewards in order by minting things and by trading on their platform as well. So we're super, super excited to be partnering with them on that. Ahead of our mint, on the 20th of Jan, which might be pushed back a couple days depending on dev time on Luart's side. We've also been announcing whitelisting. So for people that are active on our Discord and Twitter, we'll be announcing special whitelisting as well as other privileges and perks for them as well. And we're also really keen to offer special utility post-mint for partner projects that we've worked with. So zooming videos and different other utilities are things we can offer. And we're excited to, share more of that with partner projects and other projects as well. What's also exciting is because we can do a lot of things with AI, there are perks for holding multiple tokens. So, for example, those that hold 3 tokens will be able to request zooming videos every single month with us, which are able to be traded and sold. So it's really interesting. I think the utility is something that hasn't been done before, in that you can buy and sell the NFTs that you create. So, ostensibly someone could even create their own collection using the AI, which is really cool.
I mean, that sounds absolutely fantastic. And I think that form of utility and also a sense of shared creative ownership is very exciting. And I'm sure, and thank you very much, by the way, for sharing that incredible alpha. And I've already scribbled down on a piece of paper, 20th of January. I'll certainly be very much looking forward to that, as I'm sure many others in this space are. And again, Luart as a new platform, and I say this having not had any direct conversations with them, I think so far everything they've done has been absolutely spot on in terms of that initial launch of the Hellcats Mint, the visual presentation of their site, the ease of use. So yeah, I think that's going to be a very exciting event, and I very much look forward to that. So thank you again for sharing that. And I think you've already pretty much answered some of my other questions, which were around that kind of, the post-mint story, if you like. And I think I can already see in my mind's eye a lot of things opening up. I really wanted to just kind of sort of take a slight sort of digression, still within Terra, and I think it's important because we are very much a community-based crypto world, if you like. What are the projects would you say do you admire? And in fairness, it can be outside of Terra. I'd just love to hear that kind of general view, and it's probably something that, again, as I start this series, I'll be keen to ask in each of the interviews that I do. Clearly, you've partnered with a number of excellent projects, but it'd be great to hear your views. And it's not about favoritism. It's just, is there a particular aspect of a project you thought, wow, wouldn't have thought of that, or there's something special that's really caught your eye?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many, both projects we partnered with that are NFTs and projects that aren't. I think for NFTs, we really like what the Hellcats are doing. Their community is just so strong, and the events that they put on are really an inspiration to us. And, as we're leading up to Mint and then post-Mint as well, there's a lot we can learn from them. So really a big fan of Hellcats, and it's a team we've worked closely with as well. The other few, I think what Lunables is doing right now with their drops, with the Tesseract and the Baby Bulls is really, really exciting. Big fan of them. I think Galactic Punks is also doing some crazy things like with their validator, and just, continually just offering new things to their community that, haven't been done before. in NFTs is really an inspiration to us as well, and something we're looking to do post-Mint 2. Outside of NFTs, I mean, there's just so much, so much. Like, we've seen a bit of a dip in the price of Luna over the past few days. So I've been a big fan of Orca, Kajira. There are so many other protocols. I think I'm involved in NFTs and DeFi across blockchains. My favorite NFT projects are those that look to do something different in terms of utility or gamification. I'm a big fan of a project called Nifty League Degens, which is doing some cool things around play to earn, renting NFTs as well, and creating a metaverse too, which is super exciting. And I'm a big fan, specific to Terra as well, about, Stata Lab, about, a bunch of other protocols as well. I'm really excited about Alice as well, and what they can do. And in terms of, themes generally, I'm really interested about, payments, remittance and things like that, which I think can really be, worked on because of the stablecoin aspect of Terra.
I think you've captured the whole gambit there. It'd be fantastic if anyone else wants to chip in with your own additional thoughts, but I think you've encapsulated, when I put you on the spot, I didn't mean to do that, you've summed it up very well.
I think Uncle Zervo has indeed captured the gamut, but I would just add, although we talked about the collaboration earlier, that I think Astroverse is absolutely a project that we look up to a huge amount and think the team is just amazing and had an incredible experience working with. So it would be we would be remiss not to call them out in this section of the podcast as well. And then, I think our whole team is also very interested in the Terra DeFi stuff. We almost picked Terra because we were betting on the ecosystem growing and all of those applications really making it one of the most important blockchains. And so even though we are not playing in that ourselves, it was actually super important, the reason that we came to Terra, and have just been loving the success and going mainstream that we're seeing with UST and even Anchor.
And I think, as I often remind people as well, we are incredibly early in the sense that, and I know it's used as a meme, that the $1,000 Luna, show my nationality there, $1,000 Luna, and so on. But I actually think that, take yourself back 12 months, literally just 12 months, and only one of the many protocols that are now live was live. Take yourself back 4 months, none of the NFT mints had taken place. So it's an incredibly early stage of what I think is an incredibly exciting area. And I think, like you guys, I mean, in my case, I stumbled across it and then I've just fallen down the rabbit hole and absolutely immersed in it. And every single, I would say, hour, something new captures my attention. And it's just, I think it's just a wonderful, fertile place for innovation, development, investment and collaboration. And I think this very example that we're doing today demonstrates that perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we just keep discussing and we're so excited about. It's just something we're really passionate about. And, when we look at the price and, we do it, but we're really excited about the economic value and the ecosystem that Luna is and Terra is really creating. Like, the economic value and the market cap of, small things like remittances and that market sending money to developing countries is huge. And that's something that Terra could really revolutionize. And, the same with payment processing as well. And so, we're often just at dinner. Like the other night, we were all at, tapas, and the conversation was just completely overrun with, our excitement about DeFi and about, NFTs and about, the use cases for Terra and just how things are exploding. So it's such an interesting time. There are so many, interesting and smart people working on the space, yourself included, doing a great job sort of bringing it all together. So, yeah, we're just so passionate about what's happening.
And I think, from my perspective, equally the passion, the amazing desire of people to kind of eulogize, and there's genuine depth to it as well. I'm just absolutely loving that. And as I say, thank you to all of you for being my guinea pigs on the very first of these interviews that really just came out of a very simple conversation I had with Simon Chadwick about 3 weeks ago. Where we decided on the spot to do a Spaces, which we're really enjoying, and both of us are finding our feet in that strange Twitter environment. But equally, I just felt, for me, I write a lot about projects, but I think there's so much more depth when you start having those direct conversations. And I know, obviously, you guys, we've probably exchanged 200 or 300 messages on various platforms over this last 2 or 3 months, and it's great to kind of bring the story truly to life. I think there's no substitute for that direct human contact. And I think, for me, just to close off from my side, the fact that, and I was explaining to my other half earlier, I find it fascinating that I can have conversations with people all around the world where we all have that shared passion and goal to make things better. And I think, to come back to a comment that you just made, I also get very excited about the idea that actually DeFi can help liberate some of the more challenged areas of the world, hedges against countries struggling with hyperinflation. I know there are other chains that are doing this, and there's one other that is certainly close to my heart in RSR. I don't tend to tweet much about it, but the whole idea there is to really help those areas and communities that really have suffered from severe erosion of their life chances. And I think as well, ultimately, Terra could be a very safe and very trusted potential replacement for some of those money transfer services to certain parts of the world. It's so secure and very easy to move, small or significant amounts of capital into different markets and places. And the innovation is incredible, and I'm just loving seeing it unfold. Conscious we've had a good discussion over this last 30 minutes or so. It's absolutely flown by. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd just like to hand back to you guys for closing remarks, really, around where you see the Terra space in the next 6 to 9 months. And I know that's a big question. And also perhaps just summarising any more nuggets that you may have for dystopAI's next 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, sure. Terra in 6 to 9 months, you're right. That's an incredibly hard question. I think being listed on Binance, UST being listed on Binance is a huge step for, the adoption, the wider adoption of, UST as the dominant stablecoin in crypto is really exciting. And I think that's a trend we'll continue to see. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really bullish on UST. I think in terms of our project, we recently won the One Planet competition for our project dystopAI, which is a trading card game that morphs NFTs. So what we're looking to do is really focus on dystopAI and, make sure that we're offering utility to people, before and after our mint as well. But what we're really excited about is the utility that dystopAI holders will have for that upcoming project too. So dystopAI is a trading card game where people can teleport their NFTs into a universe we've created and then battle in a Discord-based and AI-generated sort of game. So it's super exciting, and community's really gotten behind us and voted for us to win, which we're super thankful about. But I think what's really interesting to us is beginning to explore that as a community, and just like we've done with dystopAI, take on community feedback and make sure that we're offering things of value. So yeah, if you're still running these in a couple of months, would happily love to come back on and talk more about that. But yeah, thank you again so much for your time. It's been great chatting to you. I think, personally, it's been great to reflect on things that we've done so far, which is hard, when you're constantly moving and feeling like a headless chook. But, really, really lovely chatting to you, Super Terra.
And likewise, an absolute pleasure speaking with you all. And again, I don't know if anyone else wants to sort of chip in with a remark or two before we close off. I absolutely would be delighted to invite you back, and love to hear more about Versailles. I must admit, I was one of those people who did vote in the Discord vote for One Planet. So congratulations. I think that's another very, very exciting opportunity I'm looking forward to seeing unfold in the coming months. But I'll hand it back to you guys for the last word before we close.
We'll definitely be looking forward to a further chat in that case. And I think it's very cool that we get to announce with you the details of our upcoming mint, because it does feel like coming full circle after the incredible exposure that you were able to give us in your work with Loop. And we've really, really appreciated that through this whole journey. So, yeah, look, thank you so much for the conversation, and hope to see the community on Jan 20 on Luart.
Wonderful. Yeah. Very much looking forward to it.
And yeah, look, I echo the same sentiments as Migachu and Deva. Thanks so much for having us. It's been a pleasure. It's also kind of felt like meeting up with a pen pal after a few months of writing letters. So it's been pretty special.
Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure for me as well. Really, really enjoyed talking with you all.